Hello guys, this is Mark Sherry back with part 2 of my walkthrough of my remix of Markus Schulz, The New World, which is out just now on Beatport. So in the first part I showed you how I managed to create the groove in the track using the kick drum, bass lines, all the different elements of percussion that I've used. But in this second part I'm going to show you how I put together all the different layers in the breakdown to give me my main section of the lead riff and all its individual layers, including the melodies, the pads, the pianos, the different choir parts that I've used, and basically they all combine together to give you the full breakdown section, which you can see here. So I'm going to play the first part through just to let you hear it. Okay, there we go. That gives you an idea of how it all sounds once everything's put together. As you can see, by this point in the track, I've basically got everything bounced down to audio. There's nothing here that's live. There's no VSTs, there's no live effects. Every single thing you can see has been bounced down because that's basically how I work to save my CPU and my computer. It stops things starting to crash and just ending up with problems. And it's something that I've done for years and years, is basically just to bounce down all the audio parts that I'm happy with. If I'm using a VST and I've got all the effects on there and I'm really happy with it in the mix, and I know for a fact that I'm not going to do anything else with it, then I'll basically bounce it down to audio, which is what you can see here. Now in the first part of the breakdown you can see that there's some pads. These phase pads come in first. They sound really nice, and then underneath that I've got a thicker pad which just starts to fade in now. And I'll bring in the phase pads again on top. So that sounds really nice. It gives you a nice warm introduction to the initial chord progression in the track. Moving up to the next 8 bars, you can see that some of the leads start to come in here. I usually like to have the leads filtering in. So this is one that I got from June 2, the VST June 2. So you can hear that I've just left a tiny little break. It's like a 2-beat break. In fact, I think it's just 1 beat. Yeah, 1 beat break just before the melody comes in full with the cut-off filter opened up fully. The next layer I've got is from Spire. I've got two Spire leads layered with each other and also layered with the June 2 lead. So that's on the upper octave. It's on a higher octave than the June 2 synth, and you can see that it's a bit more like a kind of plucky sound. And then underneath we've got one more Spire lead. So you can hear that that's a faster arpeggiated part, and if you bring them all in together, it gives you a really nice sound. There you go. And then on to the next 8, I'll also bring in some more synths to add on top of the 3 layers that I've already got. Now, I don't normally go too mad with layers, but with this track, it all fell into place, and I thought that each individual layer really added something to the sound of the overall melodic part. So you can see I've got like 6, I think there's 5 or 6 different synths there on top of the 2 pads, and then there's also a sub bass comes in to thicken it all up. But I'll just move on to the next section. So this is one of the main sections, the main leads that comes in. Sorry, it's this one. So you can hear that's on a lower octave this time. And that other spire pluck, kind of plucky sound, I've also put a really, really wide spread on that to separate it in the mix from the other synths. So if you bring them all in together, you get something like this. So I think that sounds really good, but there's one thing that's missing, and that's bass notes in the melodic part. Now this Spire lead 3, I think it is. Yeah, this one in the lower octave, some of the bass frequencies start to register, and it does sound really good. It thickens up everything, but there's still a lower octave that it's basically missing from the full mix. So I've brought in a nice sub bass to thicken it all up. So that really thickens up the bottom end and makes it sound nice and fat when you bring it in with everything else. So just taking it back again. So that's basically what's going on there, and then moving further on to the next 8 bars. Now, to add some variation, I started to play a melody that isn't really in the original version of Markus's mix. It's like a counter melody to what I've already got going on. It just starts like this. And that keeps on going, and another pad comes in on top of that to thicken that part up. It's just like a really high kind of string, which makes it sound nice and uplifting. When basically in the breakdown, you don't want to have the same thing going on every 8 bars. You want to vary it and make it more interesting, and keep it changing and moving, and give it some movement as the track progresses. And then also you can see here I start to bring in an electro beat. So I've got some nice 808 electro snares. They're just on every second beat, and then we've got some 808 closed hats and open hats, and then you've got the thick drum beats come in after that. Sounds really cool, sounds like straight out of the 80s. And then there's something else down here, this backup trance harp. I'm just going to see what this is. Oh yeah, so this is like another bass line that comes in just to add to the electro vibe. Now, I've shaved off a lot of the bass frequencies in this harp so that it doesn't clash with this Spire sub bass, because you don't want things to start phasing and like cancelling each other out. So this is what we get when you add the basses in along with the drums. So that sounds good, and then I've obviously got some pianos which come in as well. And then again, for the next date, you want something else to change, so start to bring in some 909 rides to bring in some top end percussion. Now these are just sitting on the beat. So if we bring them in with the kicks and 808 stuff. So then we bring in everything together and it sounds like this. So one more thing I want to tell you about is basically all the layers that you hear in the breakdown here, they've all been individually treated. There's no phasing going on. If I was just to pull up every sound from the VSTs and just play them as is, it's going to sound hellish because you're going to get frequencies cancelling each other out, you're going to have phasing issues, you're going to have things sounding muddy. But every single layer that you see here has been treated in some way so that they all sound together. Whether it's panning some to the left, panning some to the right, you know, just reversing the phase on some of the sounds so that there's just absolutely nothing that's clashing, and it just gives you a really clean sound. And it's something that, you know, it's taken a few years for me to get your head round it, but it's something to really it's so, I can't tell you how important it is to spend time on, you know, learning how to do this kind of stuff, because you're not going to be able to get a big sound and be able to keep it clean at the same time. Everything here has got its own part in the mix. It's all sitting in each individual frequency range. And it just makes a big difference. You get that big wall of sound and without the phasing issues. So if I move down further here, what have we got next? Now these are there's some dark stabs that come in here, and then there's also, this is going into the build up. Now you can see that I've actually gone back to an earlier version of this, and I've still got some stuff running live here, so I'm not too sure how this is going to sound. There we go, guys, that's us up into the drop. There's a few different things in there that didn't end up in the final mix, but that gives you an idea. That's the main part of the track done anyway. If you want me to do a part 3 of the drop, then I can do that as well for you, but so far, just now, that's all I've got time for. That's basically part 2, showing the full breakdown, and I'll leave it to you guys to let me know what else you want to hear. Alright, thanks for listening, guys. I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers.